Hey there, it's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. We all know what that means. Another riveting episode of Behind Breaking Bond. As you can see, this is not usually what it looks like. We're in the newsroom with our very own Caroline Collins.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I feel honored to be between you two.
Hey, there's an inside story to this. First of all, Andy is not here. Sydney's here.
So you get me again this week.
Introduce yourself, Sydney.
I'm Sydney Zeicher, the director of the Safe Community Institute at Crime Stoppers.
Sydney was the person who told me that Caroline Collins was coming to Fox 26.
It sure was.
Yes, it was me. So Caroline just appeared on my For You page consistently.
I love that. On TikTok,
we're
I'm
on
assuming.
TikTok,
Yes.
yeah. So I guess we're just interested in the same
I
thing. So
love
you're
it.
interesting to
and
me.
it had nothing to do with crime. Don't
Nothing
worry.
to do with crime. Like my whole TikTok is all about dogs. So I don't
okay,
even
yes.
know how that happened.
Yeah, my video was probably about getting ready and makeup
Yes.
for the news. Definitely not crime.
but yes.
How did you kind of get started on, or how did you decide this is what I'm going to put on TikTok?
Oh, wow. So I don't really, to be honest, I kind of just was on the app and I found it really interesting to follow people who were showing sort of the behind the scenes of their career.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, there's some people, I'm big into golf. There was this
Yeah.
park girl who,
Oh,
she
yeah.
she
Oh my
just
gosh.
shows like what she's doing out on the golf course and she's fun. And there was, just other people that are like showing just the behind the scenes of their normal job, just people who were working normal jobs and then showing you the behind. And I was like, I can do that.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I kind of started that, but what everybody liked was me getting ready. So
Because you are down to the wire all
Yes,
the time.
and I wasn't
I
making
think
that
maybe less here, but
yeah, I have a little bit more time here, but at the time I was in Fresno, California, working the morning news. So I had
That's
to,
rough in
yes,
itself.
I had to be on air at 5 a.m. sharp. So I started to film my day. That evolved into my getting ready videos, which exploded. The
Mhm.
first video that really kind of took off, I think it got 5 million likes, like I don't know, millions of views. And
Mhm.
so then from there I was like, this is what the people want, so let's
Yep.
give them what they want.
And it's one of those things too. You don't know going in that you're going to have that sort of
No.
reaction to it.
And it kind of was, people were like, is she kidding? So I had to start showing the clock. Like, no, like we're really like racing
Yeah.
and working right up until the last minute. So I was in a morning anchor in Fresno, California, and then I got hired here. So my videos started blowing up, I would say like August
Yeah.
of 2022.
I liked your videos, and
Yeah.
then one day you said, "Oh, you were moving." I'm like, "Oh, I wonder where she's moving," and then all of a sudden it was
Yeah,
Fox
crazy.
26. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
I
all
know,
the time.
crazy.
I'm with Brandy all the time.
The people that are watching them, I guess they watch them for two reasons. One, to see if you make the deadline,
Yep.
right?
And I always did.
Yeah. And I guess women probably watch to pick up tips.
Yeah, to pick up makeup tips. And of course, what it then does is it grew my platform to be able to then share my harder news stories.
Right.
And then the
Mhm.
harder news stories picked up more traction and got more views because I had built such a big audience
Yeah.
off of getting ready. So it's
Yeah.
like you get the behind the scenes me, but then I'm also going to share, content that I put out on the
Right,
news,
Right.
yeah.
stories that are important.
Yeah.
And then in return, those stories get a bigger audience. So it's really cool. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you're getting to know the
Yeah.
real me behind the lights and the camera and the news set and see kind of what goes on. But then you're also seeing important
Right.
stories that I do. And that to me was the coolest part about it.
Right.
So now maybe in the past when I would share, we call them a news package, a story
Yeah.
that we did, it might get like 100
Yeah,
views. Now my news stories that I post on that app are getting
right. And people are looking to you for
40,000
news.
likes
Yeah.
and hundreds of thousands of views. So it really like elevated my news presence, which
Mhm.
I'm so grateful for. So I get to have a lot of fun and show my personality, but then use that as a tool to get whatever message we're trying to
Yeah.
get story, get out to a bigger
Right.
audience.
It can be hard to get like news, serious stuff to take off.
Thank you. That's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You work so hard
Right.
on a story and you might not have this big audience and like, oh, I worked so hard on that. But now I have this huge launching point. And so it's just,
Yeah.
I did an important
Yeah.
story the other day on something that I thought was really important and it really took off on there. And a
And
lot of
that's
people were like,
fulfilling.
thank you for exactly.
But that's like even kind of the point of this show was to show the behind the scenes
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
big things that we're talking
Yes.
about.
yes.
And so
Well,
I think
it's
that's really cool.
insane the stories that, and I should start sharing your stories. That's actually a good idea on my
Yeah.
platforms because your stories are insane. I've never, some of the stuff that Crime Stoppers
Yeah.
helps you to report on is unbelievable.
Well, I
it's just-
have
it's nutty to think that some of these people can be out on a PR bond, a get out of jail free
Yeah,
card
Exactly.
when they've committed. And okay, they are just accused, but you let them out and they pick up another charge and
Yes.
another charge and another charge.
Yeah.
It's like you have to almost think we need to stop this person. They're in a way they're helping these people
Yeah,
continue their crime.
For
spree.
sure. But see, okay, now in the land of social media these days and TikTok, a good hook might be your voice. So I could start posting videos of that deep Randy Wallace
Oh
voice.
yeah.
Okay, and we hook them in with that, like, oh, this dude has the best voice, and then boom, we drop those stories, and then more people are seeing it, and
You know how to
ultimately,
do this. You do.
I got it. I have a master's degree in it, so
There you
there's
go.
science
There you
behind
go.
it. So I really do like to think I know what I'm doing, and it's not just all like fun and makeup. There's really a science.
You
to it.
look at you and I. I mean, when I started in television, there was no social media.
No.
It didn't even exist.
Yeah.
And here you basically studied it.
Yeah, but I like where I came into it, because I remember in my first market in Erie, Pennsylvania, as a general assignment reporter, doing my first Facebook Live, and we were like, oh my God, like we can go live off this phone. Like we thought it was so cool. So even though I think you see me as this person that's like, oh, like you guys grew up with social media, like I'm still old enough that I lived through this revolution of social media.
Yeah.
For sure.
Instagram didn't become a thing until
Right.
my like sophomore year of college. I mean, so I
You
have
saw
grown with it too.
some of it take
I
off.
did, and
sure.
then realized the importance of it, which is then when I went to get
Right.
my master's degree
Right.
in what's called communication technology, and I specialized in social media,
Mhm.
and that gave me the tools. We were learning how to basically digital marketing and campaign and social media strategies for brands, and I was like, wait a minute, I am my brand.
Yeah, and that's
So
so
I
true
use
about
that,
everybody.
yes.
Yeah.
And I remember one class we had to pick a brand, like a big brand, like Nike or
Yeah.
something, big, and do it. And I was like, I should ask my professor if I can just use me as my brand,
Yeah.
I didn't end up doing it, but I took on all the strategies that I learned
Mhm.
and just applied it to myself as a brand. And so I treat my social media like
Yeah.
a brand. And I think that that's really also helped it take
For
off.
sure.
Yeah.
So
And I think that's like an important fact. So at Crime Stoppers, we not only talk about really tragic things like this,
Yeah.
but also help with educating young people on social media and how to navigate that space. And I think that's important to remind people is like, you have looked at this as a brand, not just
Mhm.
as, okay, sharing every single thing about your life, because on one hand, that can be really dangerous.
Yeah.
And two,
Instagram, that's relatively new. Do you wonder what's going to be next as
It's
far
lemonade.
as what's going to? Yeah, I mean, what's going
Yes.
to replace TikTok or whatever? Become another big thing.
It is interesting, obviously, because we have Meta, which is Facebook and
Mhm.
Instagram, and they have such a large hold on the most of the population, but the younger kids are on TikTok. Well, what's going
Right.
to happen to TikTok? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, you just have to be open. Right now, I'm lacking right now,
Mhm.
and I believe it's because of my age, the YouTube
The
niche,
YouTube shorts
okay?
are just.
So I need to jump on that right now.
Mhm.
And it's another thing I got to do.
I know.
But that's like my age group isn't on that. But everybody
Right.
who's maybe in college right now,
Mhm.
like YouTube shorts and YouTube is the big thing. So
Yeah.
it's like that's an outlet that I'm not utilizing to get my stories out that I should be. So it's just you got to stay up with it. You got to be willing to try things.
Well, really, one of the things that I think really pushed Instagram is you had younger people. It's like they saw their parents on Facebook.
Right.
And
Yes.
it's like, oh, Facebook is for old people.
Yeah.
And so Instagram, they all start doing Instagram
Yeah.
because they think, well,
Mhm.
that's Facebook is.
But I just
an
think
old
about
crowd.
the digital reach of our stories, of our crime topics,
Yeah.
and the ability to get things out so much more and so much faster on social media
Yeah.
is huge. Then, let me write a blog like I used to, or let me
Right.
do an in-person presentation, where I do believe there's a ton of value there, but I can get a lot more information out to a lot more people doing this kind of thing.
For
Yeah.
sure. And it's nice that there's not on platforms like YouTube, there's not a time limit. So you
Right.
can,
Yeah.
kind of keep going if you want or do more, where in TV and on our website, our stories are
Very short.
shorter
Yeah.
because we only have 2.5 minutes
Yeah. You
on
can
air.
go into a lot more detail
You can
for
go
sure.
into more detail, and just some of my videos on TikTok were like 8 minutes long and people were watching the whole thing. Like,
I
that's
know.
crazy,
I know.
right?
I
That's
know.
like, how does that happen? So different space, different content, but it all comes together.
It does. It does. And I think it's fun to listen to you talk about how you thought about giving the behind the scenes of your career. Because when I'm on TikTok, I'm like, please don't ask me about my career. I need a break from
Yes,
crime.
No, I know. I
But
think
you're doing the dog thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have dogs.
Right.
that's great,
I have a
though.
very tiny, much tinier than you following for my dog.
Oh, I'll check it out. I promise.
But that's what you have to do, right? You have to kind of figure out your own little niche, and
You
then
do,
that's the road
and
you
you
take.
can't, you can't get discouraged. You can't get embarrassed. You can't worry about what your friends or your coworkers think of you. Luckily, when I started this job, everybody was very welcoming and excited about me being on
Mhm.
TikTok and having
Mhm.
this larger social media presence on TikTok and Instagram. Everyone loved that. You can't worry. If I was scared, I may not have applied for this job. I may have not
Right.
taken this chance, but everybody luckily here was so nice about it.
Well, it's sort of different now. It's like, I think back in the day, if you were a journalist, it's like you didn't want anybody to see you be
Yeah.
silly or like you're not a person, you're a journalist.
Yeah.
The story's not you, that kind of a thing. But everything has evolved into where that's what people want to know you as a person.
The way I think about it, and I'm sure you maybe
Yeah.
at Crime Stoppers think about this too, is brands that are big on social media, they make you fall in love with this thing.
Yeah.
Because, okay, let's take Chipotle, for example. They're hilarious on Twitter.
They're hilarious.
they are
on Twitter.
so
They're unhinged
good.
on Twitter.
They're unhinged. and they kind of they make you fall in love with this thing, this more so like an idea.
Mhm.
They're not making you fall in love with their food or
Yeah.
their whatever, but it's just the whole idea and the feeling that you get when you see Chipotle on social media. So that's kind of the approach
Yeah.
that I like to take in journalism. Like, I'm going to make you fall in love with my content. And then when I'm on air and delivering you these stories, you're going to trust me because you already love my brand and the stuff that I'm putting out there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that's an excellent
Yeah.
way to look at it. And this too, it's crowded out there. There's so many different ways to get information and news, and to be able to kind of stand out and say, hey,
Yeah.
come
Right.
to me.
I understand. It's a different approach. I get it.
No, for sure.
But it's
But
to
it's-
me, it's all marketing a brand now.
It's
This
very
is Randy's
effective.
brand.
Oh goodness. We know Randy's brand.
Caroline doesn't know yet that I write like a serial.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
old school. I'm like,
He also texts like that.
I
You're
got
like,
it. I don't know why.
What
I
are you
didn't know, but I
saying?
have nothing written on mine's blank. I was like, am I
Yeah.
gonna have to write anything down? Take
No,
notes?
no.
I actually didn't know what I was getting myself into sitting up here today. So
well, this is
Okay.
not our usual
Okay.
behind
This
breaking
is
bond.
this is
But people want to know the whole social
Yes.
media is a fascinating kind of a thing. And even if you're not really that into it, it's everywhere, and it's just going to become more of a thing
Yeah.
in the future. I mean, it's not going to
and
go
there's
away.
a lot of opportunities. If I was talking to a classroom full of maybe high school seniors or whatever right now,
Mhm.
the communications field can seem so broad. And I, before I went to grad school,
Yeah.
said if I wasn't being a news anchor and a news reporter and a journalist, what the heck would I be doing? Well, then I found out about this program, this digital marketing career,
Yeah.
which it has so many opportunities now, working for different brands or working even in a hospital setting where
Yeah.
you're doing PR and marketing for a hospital. There's so many opportunities.
Yeah,
in
so I feel like this is a new age version of kind of what, actually very much what our CEO, her name is Renia Mancarios, did 10 years ago when she took over the organization. So we have a very hard sell. We're hard crime, right? So our mission is to solve and prevent serious crime. But when she took over, she said, how can we make Crime Stoppers a household name and make people just all over the city kind of soften it and figure out how people can relate to crime and public
relatability.
safety. And
Yeah.
so, like you said, kind of sell yourself, so to say, and market yourself. She did that with Crime Stoppers in a very appealing way. Like,
love
hey,
that.
how can we talk about safety? So now we talk to kids, we talk to
Yes.
adults, we talk to even trained law enforcement, but it's all
Yes.
very approachable.
Yeah.
And that's what you've
relatable.
done in
Yeah.
a new age way
Yeah.
through social media.
I think when I was rushing for my videos and getting ready, so many women were like, "Oh wow, this
Yeah.
is totally me getting
They
out the
can
door,
relate.
trying to get
I can
trying to
relate
get to
that,
work."
yeah.
It's like it's
Absolutely.
hard.
And
I can't
that's
even get
something
here
that-
every day. Like
in the morning.
Well,
We
think
have a-
about it.
We have a first time.
First time? Are you sure it's first time?
timer. It's the first
Hmm.
timer. He says.
He.
He says. Is it true that Caroline Collins and Sydney Zeiker are going to replace Randy and Andy?
You know,
Probably.
reports say
Facebook watcher
Well,
Andy.
Caroline's
Facebook watcher
pushing
Andy
me.
first timer. Yeah.
I got it from here.
Yeah, I can take it from here. I'm good.
I think
No,
you
no,
guys are trying to push that on us. Do you have something to tell
Right.
us?
No, we need Randy,
That-
one for his voice and two
That
for
sounds like
reporting.
Andy to me.
Yes.
That's Andy, right?
Absolutely. And I always tell him he got to give me 2 years before he retires. He needs to tell me he's retiring in 2 years so I can prepare my soul
There you
and my
go.
workload.
Right.
Aw.
Yeah.
But you made an interesting point because there are careers out there in social. Everybody's not going to be a social media influencer.
Right.
You know that. I mean, it's like
And it's not all that it's like cracked up to be. Okay, like let me just
a lot
tell
of
you,
work.
it's a lot of work and dedication. Like it's constant. So
right. And for everybody that makes it, there's thousands of people that wanted to but didn't make it.
oh yeah.
But there's so many other ways that you could get into the whole industry of
Yeah,
social
of
media
course.
without
Yeah,
being
there's
that.
even the big YouTubers. Oh my goodness, I was just with somebody. I forget the name of the channel, but they film out of the woodlands and they're huge YouTubers and they
Oh.
have a whole staff and they have like
Wow.
and you can get in on the production side and it's like there's so many opportunities
Yeah.
that just you would not even think about when you're sitting in high school thinking like what do I want to do, you know?
Yeah.
There's so many things
For
that you
sure.
can do behind the scenes of these companies that just is awesome.
We're going to wrap it up here in a minute, but we do real quickly. We
Yeah.
need to talk about the bond situation as far as last
It was
Friday,
Friday.
the Fifth Circuit came down with a ruling, and it's like
Yeah.
a 65-page book that it's hard to read, right? I mean,
It's
it's like
68 pages.
you
and
got
extends.
almost a lot of legalese in it.
Yeah.
But what I take away from it, and I think you would agree with this, it basically says that the whole O'Donnell thing should have never happened in the first place, right?
Well, what it really says is that the federal courts should not have given any kind of recommendation for any kind of local or state bail bond.
Right. Like the
proceedings.
federal government had no business
Right.
telling the state what to do when it comes to bonds. So basically, the whole thing's gone in a way.
Real quick, what was the Donald thing for people who don't know?
This happened in several cities, including Houston. You had attorneys that they would go to different cities and they would file lawsuits.
Yeah.
Here it was Miranda O'Donnell. My argument with Miranda O'Donnell is she's not the best person to as far as the poster child for somebody that's sitting in jail because they're poor and this is a terrible, awful thing. She was out on many, many charges. She violated her bond many, many
Right.
times.
Wow.
But basically, it starts with this idea that, and some people will say that it wasn't a legitimate, actual problem where you've got all of these people that are sitting in jail and they're charged with misdemeanor, low-level crimes like shoplifting or marijuana possession.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there because they're poor. And this lawsuit gave the impression that this was like a rampant problem where you had all kinds of people that were being punished basically with a charge because they could not afford bond.
Ooh.
So the whole
So basically, the argument was that it was unconstitutional to give a cash bond, and really a high level cash bond that was not payable by someone who was charged with a very low level offense.
you were punishing them.
You were
in a way.
punishing them
Right.
and keeping them from being able to live a successful life in a way that would not be the same for someone of more means.
Right.
And so since then, we've seen quite a shift in the way that our misdemeanor judges rule on bond.
Well, and the
Um,
ruling, the federal ruling, basically told them they had to.
They
It's
had
like
to.
you have
to give a
every-
PR bond
right,
for a low level offense, but now the
most
ruling,
judges, by the way, did that anyway. I
Right.
think before the whole lawsuit.
but now we have a whole system in Harris County, and honestly, lots of money put into
Yes.
this O'Donnell
The
proceedings.
county spent millions and millions of dollars on this.
And so this ruling on Friday just poses the question, basically, what now? What
What
are
happens
we
next?
doing? Now, granted, when it comes to felony bond, which is what we at Crime Stoppers and even on Breaking Bond have really focused our majority of our efforts on, because we agreed that misdemeanor bond
Right,
needed
right.
to
And-
happen,
and-
or
yeah,
bond
and to
reform needed
just
to happen.
Make sure everybody understands, it did not apply to felonies. The
Right,
O'Donnell lawsuit, it was just misdemeanors. That's
right.
But then there were judges that decided on their own, hey, let's bring this
So when-
bond reform to federal.
When
to
SB 6 came
felony
into
court.
play, it kind of removed the ability for some of those felony court judges to give PR bonds for
Yes,
certain
yes.
offenses. It also gave things like, required training for magistrates and better parameters for bond altogether in Harris County. So a big argument in the ruling on Friday was, is this even worth ruling on? Because kind of the point is moot now because there is Texas law to change this. But
To a degree. Right.
But in the same vein, the ruling is that the federal court should not have sort of meddled in local
it's
bond
like,
proceedings.
the whole thing should have never happened, which in a way is kind of crazy. There's yesterday I interviewed John O'Neill, and he was the attorney for I think 13
Yeah.
of the judges, the county court at law judges during the suit. And his entire interview is posted on our website. You really need to listen to this guy because he was there when it happened, and he was so upset by the federal court stepping in. It was his last trial.
Right,
He
ended
didn't-
his career.
he
was
had
done.
practiced for 50 years, and he was like, "This is the craziest thing
Oh,
I've
wow.
ever seen happen."
So to sum it
Yes.
all up, what exactly have you seen since this was instated?
The O'Donnell ruling?
Yes.
So, initially we saw something that was intended solely for misdemeanor courts kind of trickle into felony courts, and felony judges on their own volition decide to kind of abide by these same rules.
Well,
Then-
before you came, it was what 100. We tracked 180 plus 87, 187 people
188, but yes.
were killed allegedly by defendants who were free on multiple bonds.
On multiple bonds, which is largely your series out
Yes.
on
Right,
bonds.
yeah,
Yes.
And those stories blow my mind every week. Probably didn't realize kind of where this started and why these people are out on bond.
Oh, we've been
Right.
doing it for more than 2 years.
Yeah,
for
over
sure.
2
Yeah.
years.
Well, I did it as reports before we
Mm.
branded it as Breaking Bond.
I
was
feel
just
like
kinda
every
doing
week though, it's like another case of somebody.
It's true, but I will say, and I always like to give credit where credit's due, that we have seen a drastic
Yes,
decline this year in
yeah.
the amount
Oh,
of
good.
people killed by someone out on multiple
Definitely,
bonds.
definitely.
And even what did I tell you a couple weeks ago? About a 6% decrease in homicides last
And
year.
we've
over the year
seen
before that.
judges setting much higher bonds,
Much higher.
haven't we?
Mm.
Yes.
I mean, so people are listening, and it was never, it's not that we're against judges and judges are bad. That's a difficult job to
but
be a
Randy,
judge.
we've seen cases lately where maybe a PR bond is given for a misdemeanor unlawful carry of a weapon case that, then goes back, and there's more to the story always, but that kind of thing could be re-examined by this ruling on Friday. I
Yeah.
mean, now maybe these judges don't have to give a PR
Right.
bond for
The
that kind
thing-
of thing.
Right now, it's kind of, I guess, up to the DA's office and I guess Commissioner's Court for
The
that
Commissioner's
matter.
Court, yeah,
Right, to
we'll have
determine,
rediscuss the
okay,
Commissioner's Court.
Now what do we do? Because it's over. I mean, we've been paying for these federal monitors. I mean, that has been expensive too.
I mean, they have a whole program manager to deal with it. And I mean, when you're mandated to do something, you got to do it. Like,
Right.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'll be very interested to see how we proceed forward and how that changes the landscape.
And I'm sure it's not going to be easy to come
No.
up, it's not going to be
Of
like
course not.
tomorrow the DA's office or
Yeah.
Commissioner's Court's going to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Because
Right.
it's a difficult thing to figure out, okay, where do we go now?
It's complicated.
And for like felonies, they said no PR bonds, right?
Well, no PR bonds for the specific violent offenses listed in
Right.
that SB6.
But it's just violent crimes.
Violent.
So one judge decided, or couple of judges decided, okay, $1.
Oh, we've seen that.
Yeah.
We've reported on that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
have seen that.
yeah, there are judges that are trying to get away from it. Well, you can't tell me what to do. I'll just, okay, your bond's $5, $1, or
Mhm.
whatever. But
Yeah.
so technically they're not
But
violating
we are
the
in the middle of
statute.
session, and I'll be interested to see how that kind of thing is remedied in
Right.
this session. I know that, as well as felon in possession of a weapon, is something that's being examined right now.
Right, and that's a good segue into plugging tonight's breaking bond at
Hey, I
9
didn't do that on
o'clock.
purpose. I didn't do that on purpose.
We look at this. It sounds crazy to even say it. Defendants who have machine guns, but
Yeah.
they get a PR bond. They get a get out of jail free card after they've been caught with a machine gun. How many people? How many of us actually need to be walking around with a machine gun? I mean, to me, if you've got a machine gun, you're asking for some sort of trouble, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you're a felon. You're not supposed to have a weapon of any kind.
That's right.
That's the base of my
That's right.
argument.
Caroline, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you
This was
so
this was
much.
very
I'm so glad I got
interesting.
to meet you,
Yes, I'm
Sydney.
so glad
Finally.
you're on. I know.
I've been hearing like I gotta meet Crime Stoppers crew for months, so I'm so glad
Here
we
we
made
are.
it happen. Yeah.
Yes, me too. Thanks for being
With the
here.
light on, you can take a selfie.
Yes, I was
Right.
just gonna say,
We
let's
will.
take a selfie.
We all learned a lot about social media. Hey, thank you so much
Thanks,
for
guys.
watching this live stream. Be good to yourself and everyone else. Bye.
Let's take that pic.
Yeah.